Oh, the shit.
Oh, and the update, I'm fine.
We're live. Okay. Hey, it's a little after 6, and so let's get started with this meeting. We're gonna have a city council meeting tonight downtown, February 20th, 2024, and we are at the Mill. We're also recording this on Zoom, and later we'll publish it on our YouTube channel. So with that, I'd call the meeting to order and ask all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Caitlin, can we get a roll call, please?
Yep. Council President Peter Sagan,
Present.
Councilmember Daughtry,
Present.
Councilmember Jorstad,
Present.
Councilmember Donahue,
Present.
Councilmember Shipman,
Present.
Councilmember Ewing,
Present.
Councilmember Tagent.
Present.
All right, great. And Council President, can we get an agenda?
Yes, fellow council members, hopefully you've had a chance to review the agenda for tonight. I would like to offer a slight modification, 10B, the International Building Code. I'd like to move that to an action item. I just have a couple of questions to clarify a couple of items. Second.
Second.
Any other changes?
I have some questions about item 10C, but I don't necessarily need it moved off consent. I just want to just clarify a few things, whatever makes most sense.
Oh, let's just move to action.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then I'd like to move 10C to action.
I'll second that. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the agenda with two modifications, moving item 10B and 10C to action
I'm
items.
sorry, I meant 10D.
Oh, D.
Now that I'm looking, yeah,
D.
10D.
Okay,
Do-
strike 10C.
Will we need to move both since they're kind of related, or are we good moving just D?
I'm good moving just D.
Okay.
What are we doing, Delta?
Down to action item.
Sorry.
What are we doing?
I want each voucher
Is it-
discussed.
10B, 10D.
Okay. Does that sound fair? All those in favor?
Aye.
The agenda. We have an agenda for you,
All
I
right,
think.
great. Perfect. Let's go with Chief Bezzo. Intro of a new officer.
I like him already.
Welcome, council. Thank you for your time tonight, mayor and council and the citizens. I get to have the privilege of introducing our new entry-level officer, Austin Hogan, and his wife Shelby. So Austin Hogan was born on July 27, 2000 to Jason and Don Hogan in Fort Hood, Texas. He's the oldest of three siblings, Morgan, Parker, Caden, and two of them live locally in Lake Stevens. Austin's father, Jason, served more than 20 years in the United States Army, instilling a strong sense of service and work ethic in Austin. Austin's mother, Dawn, also has a tremendous impact on his values, serving her community as a middle school teacher in Arlington School District. Both of his parents have supported him throughout his life and have enabled Austin to have the opportunities to pursue his dreams and achieve his goals. Austin grew up attending schools in Arlington before graduating in 2018 and spending the next 4 years playing baseball and pursuing a higher education. Yes, he will be playing in the softball game. After meeting his wife, Shelby, in 2020, they settled in Ellensburg before finishing college and deciding on their next steps. Austin and Shelby were married on October 28th, 2023, solidifying their decision to support and uplift each other throughout their lives. Austin firmly believes this was the smartest decision he's ever made in his life. Yes, I would agree, Austin. Prior to graduating from Central Washington University in December of 2023, Austin made the decision that a career in law enforcement would allow him to bring value to both his life and the lives of those around him through his service of his community. Lake Stevens became the obvious choice for an ideal location, with his mother and two brothers living in our community. In his personal time, Austin enjoys spending time with his wife and their cats, as well as finding challenging ways to push himself both physically and mentally. Recognizing that he is beginning his law enforcement career at a young age, Austin is grateful and excited for the opportunity to learn from a dedicated and well-versed members of the department in the city. We welcome Austin, his and Shelby. His academy date is going to be unknown at this time. He was set to go to the academy in July of 2023, according to CJTC, with a graduation day of June of 2025. So we have some clerical errors we gotta fix up. I'm not gonna do that.
long time.
He's actually gonna hopefully be able to go this summer. So Austin, welcome to Lake Stevens, and go around and introduce yourself.
Shelby, did you write that?
Welcome.
No, I
Good to go.
Yeah, good to go.
Thank you.
All right, very cool. Welcome, Austin and Shelby. Citizens' comments. Let's open the floor to citizens' comments. Is there anybody online?
For anyone online that would like to make citizens' comments, go ahead and raise your digital hand and I'll move you in to speak with council. I don't see anyone online.
Okay, and we have, well, we have citizens, but we have a citizen. Any comments tonight? Just happy to be here. Love it. Great. Let's move forward then. Council President, Council Business.
All right, council members, here's your opportunity. Councilmember Daughtry.
Had a great retreat. Appreciate all the staff and all the work they put into that. Appreciate the council and the mayor for all the discussion. It was, I think it was well done. We'll see what comes out of it. Nothing else.
Councilmember Donahue.
I would also echo that about the excellent work done on the retreat and getting that all set up. On the 7th, I attended the Planning Commission meeting. There was a ton of great information that I thought about diving into a little bit, but I'm sure it will come back in front of us at some point. So Russ can wave his hands in the air in frustration if I get this wrong. But if I had to sum it up, the focus of the meeting was about the housing growth targets for the city over the next 20 years. And to distill it down, essentially, in terms of the overall number of units needed, we're looking pretty good. I believe we're at about 40% of our goal for what we need until 2044. Where it gets a little tricky is recent legislative changes at the state level have created a greater emphasis on housing unit type by income band. And that's where we're going to need to do some work with regard to the comprehensive plan as far as accommodating low income housing targets. Hopefully I got that right, Russ.
Great summary.
Okay, thank you. And then on the 13th, I attended the Snohomish County Department of Emergency Management meeting. There were elections. Mayor Linda Redmond from Snohomish was reelected as chair, and then we added a vice chair, which is Mayor Dan Rankin of Darrington. And then probably the most pertinent item to the council, the interlocal agreement draft will be sent to the county council. They are sending it with a cost-based formula as far as the costs to each of the jurisdictions, but they're still waiting on the most recent population numbers. So that will be updated. After that update and an approval by the county council, it will then be distributed out to the individual cities for approval. The goal is to have that all done by June before the county council focuses on its budget. But the hard deadline for that is the end of the year. We're just hoping to get that done long before then. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Shipman.
Okay, I just wanted to express my gratitude going to Olympia. That was my first time going there and I enjoyed it. And likewise, I feel we got a lot accomplished at the retreat and I was grateful to be part of that. I attended last week the Senior Center Board meeting, and they just wanted me to share a few things. First of all, they wanted to express their gratitude for the grant from the city. They're really appreciative of that. They're hoping to get 500 individual different people through the doors this calendar year, and then they'll get a significant grant from the county. So they asked me to share that anyone can go to the Senior Center. They don't have to be a resident of Lake Stevens. People from the county can go. If you want to be a member, it's only $30 a year. They provided 374 meals last month. And so they do a lot of meals, they do a lot of activities, they really like to reach out, but they did want to say thank you for the grant money, and they're hoping to encourage more people to come so then they'll qualify for future grants through the county. They were still expressing some confusion as to who they would contact within the city for concerns like if something needs to be painted or gutters need to be cleaned, that type of thing, the maintenance on the building. So I said I'd reach out and ask who would be best to contact for those things.
I do.
Gareth has a hand up back there.
I do have a question. Is there an age limit for people visiting the senior center?
Not visiting, but I think you have to be 55 to
Gotcha.
count as, yeah, a senior.
55?
55?
I think they said 55, if I remember right, yeah.
Yes.
Brett, are you there?
Don't qualify.
Not yet.
Barely.
Yeah. Can they submit a ticket? I mean, for if they have a work request, can they submit a ticket?
They could do a citizens view. What do you want to do, Aaron?
Yeah, they should turn in a service request through Citizen View. That's the best portal for them.
Who was paying attention during the meeting?
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, okay. We'll get a, we'll make contact.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Georgetown?
Yeah, thanks. Likewise with the retreat, we got through a lot of information in a very efficient period of time. It was great to spend that time together and kind of work through some things. I specifically want to thank Lori for her facilitation skills. I think that I've been to some retreats where she's facilitated and some where she hasn't. I feel like that facilitation really helps us move through some difficult information in a good, efficient manner. Also want to thank Caitlin just for your work and making it all happen and all the pieces, bringing them all together. Great venue. Everything went really smoothly. So thank you. I also heard that this evening that there are 44 chief people registered for the Polar Plunge this weekend. So that's exciting. I unfortunately can't participate this weekend, so I'd like to take a moment and nominate Kim Daughtry to go in my place.
I'll second.
Great, we got a
I
first.
second that motion.
Thank you very much for doing that in a public meeting.
Just really want to encourage everyone to come and jump in the lake, support the process, support the Special Olympics, and thanks to Chief for helping to make that happen. And I think it's grown every year. It gets bigger and bigger, so it's very exciting.
I mean, he does have the most experience being underwater. So
Yeah, that's true.
It's true.
Can we use a wetsuit?
And you can wear costume.
Costume.
I checked it out. Yeah, you can wear. a
Do
costume.
not tell my wife this. Do not.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Ewing?
Yeah, I'll just second a little what Councilmember George said about Lori did a great job facilitating the retreat. And that was just my first time with her facilitating. And so it's nice when someone has a good skill set and has an aptitude for it. So it was a good combination. And I'm grateful that for the meetings with Representative Lowe and Eslick and Senator Wagner. He took time off the floor to come meet with us. And he had a busy schedule and he especially made time for us. And they did an outstanding job at the town hall this past Saturday. I want to thank there were a lot of Lake Stevens residents present there. A lot of the questions were taken directly from them. It was a very much a bipartisan crowd. And each of the representatives did an outstanding job of answering the questions. People were respectful. So one thing that did come out of that is Washington State ranks last out of the 51 states in DC in terms of police officers per capita. So the defunding the police that happened in Washington State disproportionately impacted Washington State because they were already down so many officers per capita. And so a lot of the questions surrounding the fentanyl crisis and the property crime crisis that's going on as a result of some of the legislation that they're striving. I'm especially grateful for Representative Eslick and her work with the mental health, especially with our young people, elementary, middle school, and high school age. I mean, she has it really dialed in. Several of the questions that came were focused on that, and she is very much a staunch advocate for just mental health in general, but especially in our district. So grateful just for the hard work that they're doing, especially as a minority party. Last thing, 95% of the bills are bipartisan. So the majority parties only, 5% are just strictly with one party. So any bill that gets passed at the 39th is a bipartisan bill.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Tangent.
Great retreat. Glad that we could make it through that vision statement or mission statement while we were there. I would hate to have brought that back. So great job, everyone working on that, especially the chief back there who worked through lunch, flipping 3 words back and forth. glad we could make it through that. That was great. So, and then hopefully I'll make it to the ice cold jump in, and maybe Councilmember Donahue and I will jump off the dock and work our way in again this year.
News at 11, right?
Yeah.
Just to echo all the comments, I appreciate all the work that the staff did. I know you folks spend a lot of time preparing for that retreat, so it's very much appreciated. So thank you. So that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Great. I've got some really cool stuff to report. So if you've noticed this thing to my left, it is not a teardrop. It is an award from ViewWorks. If you remember, ViewWorks is the company that we do our GIS asset maintenance, management programming through, and they have given us the Implementation of the Year award. So you would think that that's a big deal, but it is kind of a big deal because there's a lot of prep work that took place prior to us being able to implement it. And if you remember, ViewWorks is a program that we actually had for several years, but weren't using it. And so we needed to really assess where we were as a city, and also assess what that software could do for us, realize that we could still marry up and have a good system. But it took a lot of planning and understanding what needed to be worked on within Public Works, especially, and then implemented into the system. Would that be accurate, Aaron? Yeah. So there was a lot of staff time prior to even saying, let's get it implemented, sort of thing. So great award, a lot of work behind that award. So proud of that for the city. If you haven't heard, we had a surprise email last week. I hope I'm not taking Barb's thunder, but we went from a AA2 Moody's rating to a AA1 Moody's rating, with the only higher rating than that is a AA, correct? Or AAA? A. There's only one higher rating than what we have. So we weren't expecting the rate increase, but we're glad that we did. And it just shows all the great, it's based on several factors, but a lot of it is just the financial stability of the city, the governance stability of the city, and just lots of different factors. But a great job to Barb and her staff for getting us there. It also means rates are a little lower for us on the money that we're borrowing. So good job. I think, are we putting out a press release on that one soon? Okay.
Finish the official statement that's going for our long today, and then I'll do the rest.
Okay, cool. It's good stuff. And then I talked to Justin, our lobbyist, I think it was yesterday, and he let us know that our city hall study money, $100,000, is on both sides of the budget, currently in those. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll get it through and get that money to help our planning process for moving City Hall. That is all I have. Caitlin, you have something on the reports, department report?
Yes, very briefly. Good evening, council. I wanted to check in. We are ready to put up the wonderful photos that we took of you last year. We have frames. We'd like to put them up in our welcome area of City Hall, but our group photo is out of date, and we would like to take a photo of you, Councilmember Shipman. So we have our local photographer. He's ready to rock. He would love to know if everybody's going to be here at the council meeting next week, even just 30 minutes early, because we just don't have very much to do. So I'm hoping to get a consensus. If you guys are all planning on being here next week, we can get that taken care of in your fancy clothes.
Does that mean we have an opportunity to redo the individuals if we want?
He's very fast. So if anybody has a need for that, I'm sure we can accommodate. Yeah.
Nice.
Will 30 minutes give enough time with light outside?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking 5 o'clock. I'd like to get people here at 5 if we're gonna have more than one, and probably for the group, just for lighting. That's a good idea. Yeah. And I'll send out emails. Before I let him know we were close, I wanted to check in with everybody.
All right, so you said it, so it is done. Any other department? Nothing? Okay. All right, let's move forward then. And can I get, if we remember correctly, we moved item 10B and 10D to action items. So can I get a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So let's move to item 10B, International Building and Fire Codes Adoption. Carol.
Okay, push the button. Yep. What questions do we have? Originally, we had it on consent. We discussed it at our last meeting. Is there anything I can help clarify?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Carol. I just quickly, a couple of questions for you. I just noted on page 34, it talks about section 102.3 is hereby amended as follows. It talks about repairs, additions, alterations shall be done in accordance with the procedures and provisions at IBC. What's the definition of a repair?
So,
If you can kind of clarify that for me.
so repairs are things that wouldn't constitute new work. So if you have just trying to think of an example. So if you had a deck and you're repairing a guardrail, that would be a repair. That would be an IRC repair. If you're on a commercial project and you're doing a repair to a water leak, and plumbing would be a good example. Or if you're doing a repair to some drywall in your commercial building, that would also be a repair.
So is there a definition of repair somewhere?
So that is defined in the IEBC is what repair is really defined in. It's really pretty close to maintenance. Repair and maintenance are very close to the same thing.
So there is a definition for it.
There is.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that's only on commercial properties?
That section I think he's referring to is on commercial properties. And that hasn't been changed. It's been in the ordinance for quite some time.
So on page 35, it talks about no building or other structure shall be constructed, enlarged, altered with or change in occupancy without a permit issued by building official. Is that for residential?
I'm trying to get to page 35, make sure.
Yeah, bottom of
we're
the
on same
page,
spot.
part 3, building code 148030.
That is the section of our municipal code, and it is referencing a generic statement that hasn't been changed the last couple code cycles. That's straight out of the international. It's actually in all the headers of all the codes. That's the general terminology on chapter 1 of the building code and the residential code, in the charging statement.
Is there a definition for altered?
I would have to double check that one. That's right out of the code book.
All right. And then my second to last question. Or third to last question. This is on page 38. What is the reasoning behind accessory buildings shall not be constructed prior to commencement of construction of the main building? 1480-070. Page 38.
Yeah, I know what section you're referring to. I believe it is in the Lake Stevens Municipal Code, and that is not a building code requirement.
Right. and I
But it's
guess
been
I'm
a
just asking the
general-
Rationale for it. though,
My
since we've had it.
understanding the rationale for that goes with, if you have to have an existing building to have an accessory. So you have to have a main occupancy to know what accessory structure you're building to. The commercial and residential accessory structures are just a little bit different. They're not much different between the two codes. But I believe that's where that charging statement came from, is they want to know if you're an accessory structure to a IBC commercial building or an accessory structure to an IRC residential building.
So accessory building would be a DADU though, right?
It's any accessory building. It's not in reference to an accessory dwelling unit. It's just a secondary structure on the property, shed, garage. So if it was,
Well, I guess
someone
what-
wanted to build a tiny home, which would be compatible with an ADU, yeah, they could build that. And that's
But if somebody wanted to build a garage,
right. There's not a primary land use. That would be what Carol's referring to, that there is a primary use or building. So if you don't have something to be accessory to,
I
Okay.
ask a quick question. So you couldn't build a standalone garage or like garage or outbuilding prior to the building? The main building has to be built first? Is that what we're saying?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the way the
Yeah,
code
that
reads.
is how the code reads in the Lake Stevens Municipal Code.
and I guess I'm just asking a basic question.
Yeah.
What's the thought process behind
Yeah.
that?
It's been in our code for
Yeah.
quite some time, so.
Don't go
I'm
there.
not going to claim authorship. I'm just going to say that it is a pre-existing portion of our code. It's
Okay.
something we can evaluate and look at a different time. I'm
Okay.
not gonna have a
So the-
summary
the
answer for you.
Follow-on question to that then, Russ, would be, or Carol, let's say that somebody comes and wants a variance to that. In other words, let's say I have a piece of property, I'm gonna build a house, but I want to build a garage first to be able to put stuff in and keep it safe while I'm building the house. Like a garage. Would that be something that could be asked for in a variance that you would have the option of granting?
I believe we have allowed under the temporary occupancy section of our code to allow some things like that. It wouldn't be subject to a variance because it's not varying a standard, but I believe under the temporary uses, we've allowed something similar, but that is something again, we can come back and look at and bring back some logic or some amendments if that's the desire.
The only scenario I've ever seen in my career is where people want to build parking garage buildings without a commercial tenant building. When it's not zoned for just parking garages. That's where I've seen this one go into effect in other jurisdictions before. And so that's often why people ask for this code section to be added. I don't know the history here in Lake Stevens. It's been there for the last 2 code cycles that we've adopted. So I'm not sure why particularly they put it in there, but that's been my experience of why jurisdictions have put it in there. So that way you don't get a huge parking garage and no commercial building, and then they rent it out as a huge commercial parking garage, has been my history.
I could see the purpose of somebody wanting a garage first and then build their structure, like you said, to keep stuff so people don't steal it off the site.
So one of the ways around that would be have a residential development agreement.
Right.
Set in place with the,
But it should be codified though. I mean,
right, you know, it'd have
that's-
to be codified.
I mean, as Gary brought that up, that was the first thing I thought of, and then you brought that up saying, hey, I mean, now people steal stuff, anything that's not locked down is getting stolen off of, and so that would be something I would do. If I was building an ADU in a house, I would build the ADU if I was building the house myself, so I had a place to either store stuff or to stay while I'm building it. And so I don't know how common that is, but I would be a little reticent to have a variance for something that should be reasonable if they're building both of they're permitted for both structures at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know that we should be dictating which one gets built first. It'll allow more flexibility for the homeowner to decide how that.
I think the flexibility, and I agree with what you're saying. I think the flexibility that we have is what we've worked for several years. And that is if somebody has a reason for doing something, they come to the permit center and gives them the reason. They ought to be able to make a decision. Well, that's reasonable. Let's go ahead and do that. And we did it with RAM, we've done it in commercial. I don't know if we do a lot of it residential, but if somebody has, a different way that's not codified in the code that they want to say, well, I'd rather do it this way, flip this for instance, this just because of this, we ought to be able to have a way of doing that instead of, no, it says you have to build the house first.
Because the permit has time sensitive, so they have a year to build and then they can get an extension on that. So I mean, it's not like it's going to be pushed off indefinitely. They have to build it
Right.
within, there's timelines attached to the permit. So
So Russ, this is something you could bring back to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greg, I saw your hand up. Do you still have something to add?
What's that?
Our city attorney.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the reason for that type of clause is to prevent the situation that Carol mentioned where the accessory building gets built and there's a long delay in getting the main building built, if ever built. And I haven't seen it here, but there are situations in other cities where people want to use the accessory building and the main building never gets built. So that's the reason for that provision.
I can, I mean, I can see that.
Okay.
The last question I have for you down on 1481, 100 repairs and maintenance. Is there a threshold that, like dollar amount or something that alterations to a structure? I mean, what's the trigger for, you got definitional issues, but what's the trigger for somebody modifying, say you have a tenant, I guess, that just totally destroys the inside of a house? Is there a dollar amount, or could somebody essentially, gut that house, take it down to nothing and redo, minus plumbing and electrical codes and permits? But is there a threshold that the city's looking for, or as long as there's no structural changes made?
So both codes exempt working on drywall, painting, texturing, tiling, carpeting, cabinets. The building codes are pretty lenient on interior fixtures and changing things out. Once you start in plumbing or mechanical or electrical or framing of any kind, then that triggers a building permit. But yeah, you could essentially go into a house and take down the drywall and replace it or patch it or repair it. And same with carpeting and cabinets and countertops and all of that stuff, without any permits at all. As soon as you start changing walls around of any kinds, you need a permit, because often people will take down walls that they don't think are bearing or shear walls, and that makes their roof slope and
Okay.
us have some safety concerns.
Just worked in some other jurisdictions where they put a dollar threshold amount. Anything over X requires a permit or a review. And so I don't want to go there.
Really trying to stay as close as we can to the building code, straight out of the building code. That makes it easier for us to implement and stay in line with our local building departments around us also. So it's easier for developers and builders to build. So we really tried not to modify much of any of the codes, if at all possible, to allow for more leniency.
Okay, great. Who appoints the State Building Code Council?
It is they volunteer and elect, I'm sorry,
The State Building Code Council, I think that was.
the governor has a role in creating it, and then they apply for the positions and they're appointed.
There's actually some openings right now.
Yeah, there's
All your
lots
spare
of,
time, Gary.
Maybe we'll get some affordable housing people on that committee and make them sense of this stuff, because it's, as I said, we talk all day about affordable housing, and yet we pass legislation and things. We have no say over the International Building Code. I don't even know why it's in front of us. It has to be adopted. No changes. So why are we, I mean, I
it
get
does.
why we're doing it,
It
but
does.
we don't have any effect over this.
It does. Really, the only thing we have an effect over is we can exempt additional items from the International Residential Code and the International Building Code. And then we can make it more restrictive is the only other option we have. And I don't think any of us are looking towards doing that. And that's kind of where we're stuck by the State Building Code Council.
Right, stuck is a good way to put it. So thank you. I don't, enough said, I guess. It's just uphill battle.
Any other questions on this subject?
Thank you for your clarifications. So
You're welcome. I do need to ask if it can go to consent with coming back with that
No,
clarification.
No, we'll pass it. right
Okay,
now.
okay.
We'll deal with it. Any other
Okay.
questions for Carol? So with that, can I get a motion?
Move to approve the 2021 International Building and Fire Codes Adoption Ordinance 1160.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, you have a new ordinance, Carol.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good work on it. Barb, apparently you get some questions now on 10D.
I'm so excited since you stole my thunder.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I asked for.
That was as much everyone's point of pride. What can I do, Rich?
Excuse me. Thank you. Just really quick, we've passed this every year. I'm 100% supportive of us having social services embedded in public defense. I've seen firsthand the benefit that it can have for folks who are facing charges, kind of addressing some of those underlying issues. This is the first year I've seen included the quarterly grant report, and it got me thinking. Do we ever get any sort of feedback or reporting that is specific to Lake Stevens? Like how many folks they are assisting that are arrested, that are Lake Stevens residents or arrested in Lake Stevens, and what types of interventions they provide to our citizens?
I can get some of that more detail. What we get is we actually, when we started this grant, we did it on an upfront basis. So Office of Public Defense will actually send us the full amount for the year. And in the early years, we actually just sent that to Feldman and Lee, and then they would send us back the quarterly reports. They've had some turnover, so we went and we've changed it to reimbursement. So we get the full amount, and then they send us monthly invoices showing, and it doesn't give us names of the clients or anything. It gives us case numbers and sort of hours spent. It doesn't necessarily say what type of assistance they've given. I believe the quarterly report might, let me look into that a little bit more and see what I can find on what type of services they're providing to our.
I think even just like case numbers that are specific to Lake Stevens, and then hours spent, that would be more than we get now. And I think it would just be good to know what it is we're purchasing and how much time is being spent assisting the citizens in Lake Stevens.
I can definitely do that. The invoices that well, it's not invoices, the backup we received to the invoices only show the social service portion. And the administrative time as well. And so they're kind of collapsed in together. And so I can definitely pull those because I get those for Arlington as well, since we're the administrator of the grant.
Oh, sure.
Which is why we know that they utilize it a lot more than we do, since we're the 60%, 40%. And so we get 40% of the grant, and then our local portion is 40% of the total as well.
Okay, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
let me look into that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, I have a follow-up question now. Sorry. Would it be possible to get that? Because am I understanding this correct, that we're paying a law firm to provide these social services? So I guess
Yeah.
in conjunction with public defense, right? So there's the public defense portion, and there's the social services portion.
Correct.
I guess
We have a separate contract for the public defense portion, and then this is for the social services portion.
okay, and not to screw up a longstanding arrangement, but I guess I would be curious what we're purchasing on the social services side if we're paying law firm rates, and if there's that.
We are not.
We're not.
We are-
Okay, so it's not the attorneys
No.
coordinating providing these services, but it's
No.
run through a law firm.
No, they actually have a separate person who does it, and it's mostly helping the defendants get into drug programs and that type of thing pre-defense, helping them get it set up after so that they're not spending as much time in jail. And which obviously cost us less.
Right.
And
Okay.
to decrease the recidivism.
Recidivism. Okay. Okay.
That word,
Yeah.
So,
Okay. That makes me feel better. I thought we were paying the attorneys to do this type of work. So
Social workers get paid a lot less, so it's.
unfortunately, yeah. But that's why I was like, can we make our dollars go farther? But okay. Yeah.
Did you have something, Chief?
He was just showing me that he has the data as well.
Okay.
I withdraw my question.
Any other questions? Okay, so with that, can I get a motion to on this item?
I move to approve Amendment 4 to the agreement with Thelma and Lee in the Public Defense Social Services Program.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. I'm gonna take a minute to pass out draft agendas for next week. Hopefully Councilmember Daughtry will be all warmed up from his lake plunge. Then. So we're looking at a VOA presentation on Lake Stevens Community Resource Center. We're also looking at a lake management report from Summers County, a code cleanup public hearing, a department report on the future fuel card program, and introductions of 2 new crew workers.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?